Hello dear viewers and subscribers of the channel. Today is August 17th, 2025, and this is a brief overview of the battlefield map. For today, the main changes are happening on the South Donetsk axis and on the Pokrovsk axis. On the Konstantinovka axis, there are few changes. There are changes on the Seversk axis. There are also developments on the Izium axis. On the Kupansk axis, so far it is quiet. The same applies to the Kharkiv axis and the Sumy axis. We will cover all this from south to north, but before continuing, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos and always stay updated on the latest events and news. Let's begin with Gorod and Andrevka. At this moment, Gorod is under the control of the Russian army, as is Voskresenka. However, in Andrevka, active fighting is still ongoing. And currently, along all three of these directions, offensive actions are being conducted toward the settlement of Sishnev, along with FPV drone strikes against Ukrainian troop positions in the settlements of Kamyshevaha, Voronezh, and Novoselovka, moving further north on the map toward the settlement of Andrevka-Klevtsovo. Yesterday, reports indicated that this entire settlement was under the control of the Russian army, as well as the adjacent territories. However, today there is information that Ukrainian forces launched counterattacks in the northern part of this settlement. The situation here is still unclear, so we won't speculate ahead of time and will wait to see how events unfold in the near future. At the same time, Russian forces are conducting active offensive actions toward the settlement of Ivanovka, with reports of FPV drone strikes targeting Ukrainian positions there. There is also information about Russian advances from Udachnoye, Zaporozhye, and Novokotskoye toward the settlement of Filia, though this information remains unconfirmed and is only coming in as reports. Moving further east on the map, the entire territory from Orakov to Udachnoye has come under Russian control, and now, from Udachnoye and Orakov, active offensive operations are underway toward the settlements of Filia and Pavlovka. On this axis, the information is confirmed. Kotlerovka is also under Russian control, and active fighting continues in Muravka, Novonikolaevka, and Belyakovka. Further north on the map toward Udachnoye and Kotlo. At present, there is unconfirmed information that Udachnoye is fully under Russian control. However, confirmed data states that 3/4 of this settlement are controlled by Russian forces, while fighting continues in the northwestern part. Ukrainian forces are still present there, and battles for control are ongoing. Regarding the supply road leading into this settlement, there is no news yet. We continue monitoring the situation there. As for Kotlo, it is fully under Russian control, though north of this settlement Ukrainian troops remain, and active clashes continue in that area. Zooming out, let's move to the Pokrovsk axis. For Pokrovsk itself, there has been no new information over the past several days, though heavy fighting continues there. As for Novokranka, it is completely under Russian control, and offensives continue south of Pokrovsk as well as from Nikolaevka toward Mirnograd. Currently, fighting is ongoing in Promin and Kazatskoye, with offensives pushing from Mirolubovka in this direction. Zooming in a bit, Novoekonomicheskoye and Nikolaevka are fully under Russian control, with Russian troop presence recorded there. The entire area has come under Russian control, and offensives are ongoing along the supply road toward Mirnograd. We will keep following developments here. Moving further north on the map, Suketskoye is under Russian control, as is Zatishok, while heavy fighting is underway in Rodinskoye and Krasny Lyman. According to unconfirmed reports, most of Rodinskoye has fallen under Russian control, and fighting continues in Krasny Lyman from several directions. Zooming out again to move further north. As you know, not long ago offensives were advancing toward Zolotoy Kolodez and Gruskoye. Now, reports indicate that Ukrainian forces are resisting from Shakovo, Volchansk, Zolotoy Kolodez, and Gruskoye. However, Russian troops are reportedly near Gruskoye, with heavy fighting also continuing in Chasiv Yar. Russian forces are pushing Ukrainian units back from these points and reclaiming previously held territory in this direction, now pressing harder than in previous days. Regarding Nikolaevka, the situation is unclear, Some reports say Russian troops captured the settlement, others that Ukrainian forces retook it. We won't speculate and will wait for updates in the coming days to see who ultimately controls it. Fighting is also ongoing in Ivanovka, Udachnoye, Novoye Shakovo, Pankovka, with offensives continuing toward Vladimirovka from several sides. Fighting is also continuing in Chasiv Yar. We'll keep monitoring developments in these settlements and along this axis. For now, moving further on the map toward Pavlovka and Rousinar. Pavlovka is fully under Russian control, while Rousinar is only half controlled. There has been no new information from here. The southern part is under Russian control, the northern part under Ukrainian. Fighting for control of the settlement is ongoing. Offensives are also advancing toward Stepanovka, with unconfirmed reports that battles have already started on the outskirts. Next, moving toward Claybek, Sherbinovka is fully under Russian control, as is the southern part of Novospas. There is unconfirmed information that the northern part of Novospas is also under Russian control. As for Katerinovka and Claybek, both are fully under Russian control, though residual clashes continue in northern Claybek. Between Alexandro Kalinovo and Claybek, offensives are underway toward the Claybek reservoir. Russian forces are gradually clearing and taking control of these areas. Offensive actions are also ongoing east of Claybek, with these territories gradually falling under Russian control. Further up the map, fighting continues in Alexandro Shultino, though no new reports have come in for several days. Battles are ongoing in Pleshevka and Nelipovka, with confirmed Russian presence there, and offensives are pushing toward Ivanopoliye. Moving north toward the Chasiv Yar axis, reports indicate that heavy fighting is underway in Predtichino, with all territory up to Predtichino already under Russian control. Fighting continues in northern Stupochki, as well as in Nikolaevka and Chervonoye. Gradually, the entire pocket from Chervonoye and Nikolaevka to Predtichino is being cleared by Russian forces, with offensives continuing toward Konstantinovka. Further north, there are reports that areas south of Maiskoye are now under Russian control, with heavy fighting ongoing inside the settlement itself. Grigorovka is under Russian control, with offensives advancing toward Markovo. Zooming out, let's move to the Seversk axis. Vyemka, as well as Ivano-Darievka and Novoselovka, with adjacent areas, are under Russian control, with offensives continuing toward Seversk. Reports also indicate that fighting has already begun on the outskirts of Seversk. Fighting continues in Perezdnoye, with offensives directed toward Kuzminovka and Zvanovka. Next, toward Serebryanka, reports indicate that the entire Serebryanka is under Russian control, with offensives advancing toward Seversk and also toward Torskoye. Forest belts and fields in this area are being gradually cleared. Zooming out further to the Krasny Lyman axis, Torskoye and surrounding areas are fully under Russian control, with offensives pushing into Zareknoye. The grey zone there has already been taken over, with offensives now moving into the northern part of Zareknoye, where battles are ongoing. Kolodezi has also, according to today's reports, fully fallen under Russian control, along with adjacent territories. Heavy fighting continues in Shandrigolovo, with parts of the nearby territories also taken by Russian forces. Zelenaya Dolina is under Russian control as well, with offensives continuing toward Stavki and further toward Lyman. We will continue monitoring this axis. And now we move further to the Izium axis. Today, reports indicate that the settlement of Zeleny Gai and its surrounding territories have fully come under the control of the Russian army. Active offensive actions are now underway toward Bobrovskaya Andrevka, with confirmed reports that heavy fighting has already begun near this settlement. Lozovaya is also under Russian control, and today there are reports that the territories stretching from Lozovaya to Bobrovskaya Andreevka, specifically slightly north of Bobrovskaya Andreevka, have been taken by the Russian army. At present, offensives are advancing toward Novaya Krugliakovka, though no clashes have yet been reported directly near this settlement. However, heavy fighting is ongoing in the settlement of Zagrizovo, particularly in its northern part, where battles continue after recent offensive operations. Moving further north on the map, toward the Kupansk axis, the settlements of Krugliakovka and Kolesnikovka are under Russian control. However, Ukrainian forces are carrying out FPV drone strikes on Russian troop positions in these settlements. At the same time, heavy fighting is taking place in Glushkovka and Stepovaya Novoselovka. The territories between them are under Russian control, with offensives pushing further toward Kurilovka and Novosinovo. FPV drone strikes are also being carried out against these settlements. Now let's move into Kupansk itself. Currently, heavy fighting is reported in Petropavlovka, Kucherovka, Sobolevka, Moskovka, Radkovka, Kondrashovka, and Golubovka. Most of Kondrashovka is under Russian control, though Ukrainian counterattacks are underway in this settlement. FPV drone strikes are also targeting Russian troop positions in Radkovka and Golubovka. Active fighting is taking place in the northern districts of Kupansk, as well as offensives advancing toward the supply road leading into the city. We continue to follow developments on this axis, moving further north on the map toward Andrevka, Khatny, and Melovoy. Melovoy is under Russian control, while Khatny and Andrevka remain under Ukrainian control. However, reports suggest that areas near Andrevka and south of Melovoy have been taken by Russian forces, with offensives now advancing toward both Andrevka and Khatny. At the same time, Ukrainian FPV drones are striking Melovoy. Otherwise, there are no major changes in this area. Let's now move to the Kharkov axis, toward Volchansk. In Volchansk itself, as well as in the settlement of Tikoye, heavy fighting continues. The territories south of Marino are under Russian control, and Russian forces are continuing offensives toward Bochkovoye, Zibino, and Volchanskie Khutora. Ukrainian forces, however, are attempting to hold this line of contact, and battles are ongoing along the entire front line here. No new territorial changes have been reported in recent days, but we continue to follow this direction. Moving further on the map, Staritsa is under Russian control, while Zelenoy remains under Ukrainian control. Ukrainian counterattacks are being carried out towards Staritsa, while Russian offensives are advancing towards Zelenoy. No updated reports have yet come in from this area. As for Lukyantsy, it is fully under Russian control, though Ukrainian forces are carrying out counterattacks into the settlement and conducting FPV drone strikes against Russian positions there. There are also unconfirmed reports of heavy fighting on the outskirts of Lukyantsy. Now we move to the Sumy axis, toward the settlement of Yunakovka. The northern part of Yunakovka, as well as territories southwest of the settlement, are under Russian control. However, the southern part remains under Ukrainian control, and heavy offensives are underway into that sector. Fighting continues over control of the settlement. Next, moving toward Andrevka, Kondratovka, and Varakino. Varakino itself is currently under Russian control, though reports indicate that Ukrainian forces counterattacked near the settlement and captured part of the territory to its west. Heavy fighting is ongoing inside the settlement. Andrevka and Kondratovka remain under Ukrainian control, with Ukrainian counterattacks continuing from several directions toward Alexeyevka. Alexeyevka itself is under Russian control, and battles are taking place on its outskirts, though no fresh reports have been received in recent days. Fighting in and around Varakino continues, with Russian forces trying to push back Ukrainian units and suppress this counteroffensive. Now moving toward Tyotkino. The areas near Beselovka are under Ukrainian control, but no offensives have been launched beyond that point. However, south of Tyotkino, Ukrainian counterattacks are ongoing toward the settlement, which is under Russian control. FPV drone strikes have also targeted Tyotkino, as well as the supply road northeast of it. Still, no updated reports have come in from this sector over the past few days. We continue to monitor developments there. And that concludes today's updates from the news and the map. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos and always stay up to date on the latest events and reports.